Good afternoon, Pioneer fans, and welcome to the SHU Sports Report. I'm Gino Ganello.
And I'm Dan Gardella. Gino, time has certainly flown by, and the festive Christmas lights are already being set up around campus.
Yeah, Dan, we haven't even hit Thanksgiving yet, but it's right around the corner, only 7 days till Turkey Day. Right now, though, we'll keep it to Sacred Heart sports action as SHU football hit the road this past weekend. With playoffs out of the picture, the Sacred Heart football team traveled to Pennsylvania this past weekend, looking to grab a win on the road at St. Francis, PA. The Pioneers would receive to start the game, and on the first play of the game, Ezekiel Ennis, the standout freshman for the Pioneers, took the ball to the house, running 76 yards to the end zone, putting the Pios up 7-0. After that explosive play, though, it was pretty much silent for both offenses for the rest of the half, as Sacred Heart's Josh Freria would knock in 2 field goals, putting SHU up 13-0, before St. Francis finally found themselves with points on the board right before the half, making it 13-7. And if the first half was quiet, the second half was even more silent offensively, as the only points by either side would be a field goal by the Pioneers to put them up 16-7, which would end up being the final score. Fifth-year defensive back Kamal Whitaker was awarded NEC Defensive Player of the Week with his interception and fumble recovery. Meanwhile, Ezekiel Ennis earned his second straight NEC Rookie of the Week with his stellar performance. The Pioneers would improve to 2-3 in conference while rushing for 241 yards on the day, led by Nate Shavius, who had 84 yards on 22 carries. The Pioneers finish out their season on Saturday as they will honor their seniors on Senior Day before taking on Wagner at home. And Dan, with the Sacred Heart football team wrapping up their season in 2 days, one of our other teams wrapped up their season this past weekend. Why don't you get us all caught up on them?
That's right, Gino. The Sacred Heart women's volleyball team concluded their season on the road this weekend against LIU Brooklyn and St. Francis Brooklyn. Starting off Friday night, the Pioneers traveled to LIU Brooklyn in hopes of finishing out the final weekend of the 2017 season with a win. After taking a 2-1 lead, SHU was unable to complete the victory, falling 25-22 in set 4 and 15-10 in set 5, losing the match to the Blackbirds 3-2. Redshirt sophomore Liesl Nellis led the Pioneers in kills with 15 to go along with 9 digs. Redshirt junior Michaela Dole recorded her 13th double-double of the season by getting 12 kills and 13 digs. Sophomore middle hitters Rihanna McNamee and Julia Morowinski each recorded 11 kills. Redshirt senior Kiki Robinson had herself a double-double as well by registering 52 assists and 11 digs on the day. From there, it was a quick turnaround as the Pioneers stayed in Brooklyn to take on the Terriers of St. Francis Brooklyn to finish off the 2017 regular season. The first 2 sets went SHU's way as they took set 1 25-18 and squeaked out a 25-23 win in set 2. St. Francis Brooklyn came back to take the third set 25-23 to force a 4th set. From there, it was all Pioneers as they jumped out to a 5-2 start and never looked back as they cruised to a 25-14 set win, winning the match 3-1. In her last game as a Pioneer, Robinson did it all, tallying 44 assists, 4 kills, 10 digs, 1 service ace, and 2 blocks to pace the Pioneers. 4 Sacred Heart players were in double-digit kills on the match, including Dole with 16, Morowinski with 12, McNamee with 10, and Nellis, who recorded her 15th double-double of the season with 11 kills and 10 digs. The Pios wrap up their 2017 season 12-15 overall and 5-8 in conference play. They will look to 2018 in hopes to bounce back and enter another postseason action.
Don't worry, Pio fans. Just because fall sports have or are ending in the next few days doesn't mean we won't have plenty of sports action for you. In fact, after the break, our very own Anthony Saccone is standing by with more on this week's Update Corner.
Welcome back to the SHU Sports Report. We have a lot of winter sports well underway. And to kick things off on this week's Update Corner, we have women's ice hockey, as they had a 2-game road series against a very tough Holy Cross opponent. Both contests were hard fought between the Pioneers and the Crusaders. During the first game, it was Holy Cross who scored in the first period on a power play goal. The game would remain 1-0 until SHU was finally able to tie up the score at 1 apiece in the third period off a goal from sophomore Olivia Bryant. Despite Sacred Heart having the momentum after the tying goal, Holy Cross was able to manufacture one of their own right near the end of the third period as they took the contest by a final of 2-1. But Sacred Heart did come back on Sunday with a vengeance, as it was junior Katie Stuvey who got the scoring started off a great dish from senior Taylor Moreland. Later in the game, it was Taylor Moreland yet again, except this time she would bury one in the back of the net, giving SHU a 2-0 lead over Holy Cross. That was all the Pioneers would need, as Holy Cross did make it a one-goal contest, but goaltender Sarah Urban was on her A game as she stopped 27 pucks. And Sacred Heart went on to defeat Holy Cross by a final of 2-1. Women's ice hockey is back at home with a 2-game series against Franklin Pierce, starting Friday the 17th. Now on to bowling. The Pioneers took the hike up to Kenosha, Wisconsin to participate in the Warhawk Invitational hosted by Wisconsin Whitewater. The Pioneers started out 3-7 in pool play and went into the final round on Sunday as the 14 seed. Sacred Heart took on NEC foe LIU Brooklyn and defeated them 4-3 in a best-of-7 series. It was senior Amanda Nardiello who clinched victory for the Pioneers in the anchor spot. SHU then went on to face Lincoln Memorial, and Sacred Heart gave Lincoln Memorial all they can possibly handle, as the Pioneers cruised to a 4-0 sweep over the Rail Splitters. Sacred Heart then went on to face Monmouth, but Monmouth was able to end the Pioneers' winning spree. SHU bowling ended the tournament in 12th place. Sacred Heart's next match is the Hawk Classic, hosted by Maryland Eastern Shore on Friday, November 17th. Elsewhere, we look to fencing as they competed this past weekend at the 2017 Vassar Invitational in Poughkeepsie, New York. And it was quite the phenomenal weekend for the men's and women's teams. Overall, the two teams combined to beat their opponents 11-3. The women started off in an 0-2 hole, but they were able to bounce right back as they then took 5 straight matches. The Pioneers went on to take down LIU 19-8, FDU 16-11, Yeshiva 25-2, and CCNY 26-1. Much like the women, the men's team also started off in a hole, but they were able to climb right out. They went on to defeat Yeshiva 25-5, Army West Point 23-4, and Stevens 15-12. Overall, an amazing weekend for Pioneer fencing as they now look to travel to Brown University for their first NEC matchup of the year on Saturday, November 18th. Now on to Sacred Heart men's cross country, where they competed at the Northeast Region Cross Country Championships. The Pioneers got some key contributions this past weekend. Leading the way for the Pios was sophomore Gilmar Barrios, who crossed the finish line first for the Pioneers as he placed 97th overall, which was good enough for 84 total spots higher than his 2016 campaign. Overall, the Pioneers would finish in 24th place for the weekend. As for women's cross country, they had a very solid outing. They improved quite a few spots higher from just a season ago. Senior Kate Svensson stood out this past weekend as she finished in 71st place, leading the way for the Pioneers. And right behind her was fellow classmate Lindsay Lucas, who crossed the line at 76th. Overall, women's cross country finished 17th out of 36 teams. And this weekend, both cross country teams will head to the ECAC IC4A Indoor Cross Country Championships in the Bronx or the NCAA National Championships in Madison, Wisconsin. That's all we have for this week's Update Corner. But for this week's Coach's Corner, we have Adam Chambers sitting with one of Sacred Heart's newest head coaches. Adam?
Thanks, Anthony. I'm here with wrestling head coach John Clark. Coach, thanks for coming down for your first showing on the SHU Sports Report.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. To start things off, you come to Sacred Heart with an extensive wrestling background. How can experience from your years at the Pac-12, the EWIA competitors, and the All-American Wrestling Academy help improve the positive path that the Sacred Heart wrestling community is currently on?
Yeah, it's been great to have a lot of experience in the sport, and really excited to have this year start, and definitely going to rely on those past experiences as well as coming from a wrestling family to utilize them and to share my knowledge of the sport to the student athletes on the team.
So how have returning wrestlers like redshirt junior Alex Heinsberger, junior Gerard Daly, and senior Paul Klee, just to name a few, have stepped into the leadership role with the many new faces on the team that they have acquired this year?
Yeah, Gerard, Paul, and Alex are great student athletes on the team. They're just one of the many awesome people that both returners and now the incoming freshmen. They're going to play a huge part to have that experience of their leadership to be carried on to the younger guys on the team, is going to be very pivotal for us to have a successful season.
So some of the new faces on the roster have already made a splash this season, such as freshman Ryan Burns and Austin Aberclary have had quite a successful start for their career so far as Pioneers. So what are the expectations for the underclassmen on the roster so far?
Yeah, we have high expectations for the underclassmen. We have 13 kids that are freshmen this year that are coming into school, and we're very excited about the potential. We want them to be able to step up right away, and as you mentioned, some of them have. So we want the upperclassmen to take the leadership role, but them also to be able to learn from their leadership and just have a great season.
Overall, with a few meets under your belt already in the first year, what should Sacred Heart fans expect from the wrestling team for the rest of the 2017-28 season?
Yeah, it's been nice. We've had 2 competitions so far, Princeton Open and the Journeyman Duels, and this weekend we head to the Keystone Classic in Philly. So it's been great to get that experience. Everyone on the team has been able to participate and get matches and build off of that for kind of the next part of our season, and we're really excited about the potential of this team.
So, Coach, we want to thank you for coming down and giving us some insight into your first year so far with the rest of the season. From all of us here at the SHU Sports Report, we want to wish you some good luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming on.
Yeah, no, it's awesome being here. I love Sacred Heart. Feels like home already, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Stay tuned, because after the break, we'll have some more Sacred Heart sports action.
Welcome back. We'll continue this edition of the SHU Sports Report with 2 more Sacred Heart sports kicking off their 2017-2018 seasons.
That's right, Gino. The men's and women's basketball team tipped off their seasons, and they're underway. Why don't you get us started with some men's hoops?
Absolutely, Dan. The men's basketball team opened their 2017-2018 season at home while welcoming Holy Cross to the Pitt Center last Friday. The game got off to a slow start as the Pioneers were able to keep it close until midway through the first half when Holy Cross started to pull away. Flurry of turnovers by SHU allowed the Crusaders to open up a 36-25 lead going into the half. But the Pioneers would not back down. SHU would pull within 1 with 16 minutes to go in the second half and look to grab the lead. But the Crusaders would have none of it, extending their lead to a game-high 12 points with just under 10 minutes to go. Once again, the Pioneers would show resilience, fighting hard for the final 10 minutes and eventually getting the deficit down to 3, but a missed 3 and a turnover costed SHU in the final 20 seconds, eventually falling to Holy Cross 69-64. Despite the loss, Sean Hone led the Pioneers with 18 points while shooting 46.7% from the field. With eyes set on their first win of the season, the Pioneers traveled north to Boston to take on Boston College in a tough early season matchup. SHU came out of the gates hot, jumping out to a 25-17 lead with 8 minutes to play in the first half. But despite firing on all cylinders to begin the game, things would get tougher for SHU as Boston College made a late run in the half to bring the score to 31-30 Pioneers going into the half. From there, it was all Eagles as Sacred Heart shot a mere 23% from the field and 67% from the line in the second half. The Eagles made the Pioneers pay time after time to the tune of a 43-point half and a 73-53 win. The loss dropped the Pioneers to 0-2 in the season, while once again senior Joe Lopez was a bright spot, registering 15 points and 14 rebounds on the night. SHU will now look to bounce back on Saturday as they take on St. Peter's in the second game of the Basketball Hall of Fame tip-off tournament at Mohegan Sun Arena.
From men's hoops to women's, the Sacred Heart women's basketball team opened their 2017-2018 season on the road this past Friday as they traveled to West Long Branch, New Jersey to take on the Monmouth Hawks. A close game featuring 13 lead changes and 14 ties started off in the Pioneers' favor. Going into the half, Sacred Heart led the Hawks 29-26. However, Monmouth would manage to tie the game at 42 heading into the final quarter. With SHU trailing by 1 with 2 minutes remaining, Monmouth went on a 7-0 run to open their lead to 8 at 64-56, a deficit the Pioneers could not overcome. Monmouth would eventually go on to win 69-64. Redshirt sophomore Candace Leatherwood led the Pioneer offense with 19 points on 8 of 15 shooting. 3 other Pioneers scored in double figures, including senior Tykira Carter with 16, junior Erin Stork had 14, and redshirt sophomore Catherine Haynes registered her first double-double of the season by scoring 11 points along with grabbing 13 rebounds. Last night, I was able to get down to the Pitt Center for their home opener as they hosted the Manhattan Jaspers. The Sacred Heart Pioneers defeated the Manhattan Jaspers 65-61 at the William H. Pitt Center Wednesday night. A close game throughout as the Jaspers led 2019 after the first quarter and held a 34-31 advantage going into the halftime break. But from there, the Pioneers showed resilience, outscoring Manhattan 17-10 in the third quarter to take a 48-44 lead going into the final quarter. From there, the Pioneers continued to fight as they were able to keep the game in their favor, and free throws down the stretch iced the game and the victory. The Pioneers were led by Candace Leatherwood, who scored 18 of her career-high 23 points in the second half. Catherine Haynes also recorded her second double-double of the young season by scoring 16 points and grabbing 13 rebounds, along with 2 points coming in with 31 seconds left to give the Pioneers a 3-point lead to seal the victory. The Pioneers, who now improved to 1-1, hit the road for 3 games over Thanksgiving break as they will take on Harvard Saturday at 2 p.m. For the SHU Sports Report, I'm Dan Gardella. Both teams have a challenging non-conference schedule before entering NEC play. We look forward to reporting on all the winter sports as they compete through their 2017-2018 seasons.
Sacred Heart sports action continues next week, but the SHU Sports Report will be taking a week off for Thanksgiving. But we'll be back the 29th to fill you in on all the Thanksgiving week highlights. From all of us here, have a safe and happy Thanksgiving. I'm Gino Ganello.
And I'm Dan Gardella. Thanks for watching.